It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical, Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host, Mainz. My colleague with the slowest kettle in Christendom is Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Don't add the kettle to reasons why I'm pissed off.
So, if anyone remembers from last week, Neil suggested that if his hashtag beat Dallas didn't come into effect, that you may get a very angry Neil. For those who are unaware, Philadelphia didn't win. So brace yourselves, people. This one could be energetic.
How about start the game like you mean to go on, instead of coming in and pissing around? Just a thought. And how about, yet again, not thinking 20 will do?
Yeah, I think there's the NFC East 28 means is actually 50 is an issue. The fact that last season I think he scored somewhere like 216 points in the first quarter, and this season you've got something outrageous like 21. And also the fact that weirdly last season there was only about 4 teams who had more third downs than you. You have a similar number this year, but obviously this year you're not converting any. But one thing the one of them things where you're just like, yeah, well, we won a Super Bowl, so do we necessarily care about some concerning underlying numbers that we got away, not necessarily got away with last year, but we just kind of dealt with?
They weren't sustainable. Greg Cosell, in the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast breakdown with Fran Duffy, did say that maybe it might be an idea. What actually was a strength for the Eagles last year is becoming almost a weakness this year, and that's RPOs. In the sense now it's, okay, well, it's an RPO, I'll go and we'll pass it. Whereas Greg says, why don't you just go up and run it? Just, don't try and be clever. Just try and do something with the running game while the game is still in question. As opposed to just like, I don't like what we're seeing here, so we'll just pass it. Well, no, run the ball occasionally. Because it's, as I said, that stat to you, Zach Ertz has got 10 catches in 4 games this season. The Eagles have lost all 4. So yeah. I think if that doesn't say something...
We agree, and we kind of endorse the running backs don't matter philosophy in fantasy here on Waxing Lyrical. However, I think if you lose Jay Ajayi and LeGarrette Blount and then think that you don't need to really replace them, that's an issue. And it's strange because, as we've discussed numerous times on the pod, Howie Roseman's usually a wizard. And to think that they didn't even, and I'm just going to use him as an example, give Pittsburgh a call on the Lev Bell situation, even if it was just for just a rental for the year, it surprises me.
I will, in trying to keep my spirits up, because this is a very, very, I say this is the worst offence since, if the glove doesn't fit, you must have quit, to be honest. I still think I'm trying to draw parallels between this season and the Patriots 2002 season, in that Belichick himself said the team that won that first Super Bowl was not a Super Bowl winning team. And then for the second season, the season after it, they played through some things, but it was just a case of, okay, we're going to have to make some hard decisions next year. We're seeing now that the Eagles were going to have hard decisions to make. It's a question of Nick Foles isn't going to be there, so that's no real big problem because Carson Wentz is not the problem.
No.
So we'll get away from that. But we're going to have Jason Peters' decision needs to be made. People like Rodney McLeod, Ronald Darby, who's now torn his ACL at a really dodgy time because the recovery period, as we saw with Wentz last year, this is probably going to take him out of training camp, out of minicamp, and he was on a contract year anyway. So Darren Sproles, wasted season, don't think he's going to come back. Jay Ajayi, out for the season, contract year, don't think he's going to come back. Brandon Graham has been a very good Eagles player, and I'll forever be grateful for the strip sack in the Super Bowl. Coming up to the end of his contract, is it time to move on from him? Probably. Howie needs to nail the next draft, and they need to be prudent in what they do in free agency. Because, see, the pieces are still there. They don't have to worry about quarterback. They don't have to worry too much about personnel on defence. It's a question of coaching, and also, it's coaching because they can't tackle for shit, quite frankly. So I still have faith, but I'm already prepared to write this season off. It's done.
there's a plus and a minus. Well, this week, let's be honest. Are we gonna wipe off this week? This season for the Philadelphia Eagles. You are what 3-6, 4-6,
4-5.
4-5. And this week you play
The New Orleans Saints.
Where?
In New Orleans.
And you believe you need how many points to win a game?
16.
Yeah, okay. We may come on to that when I pick my team of the week. You also play, I believe, a team in Los Angeles.
What was
the Rams?
Just
I
let me
believe they're
find.
called, and
Yes.
and
Just
I believe
let me
they
find.
also think that you need to score more than 16 points.
Well, if they're going to have this weird notion, just let me find this quote, this tweet from Chris Wessling regarding the Eagles' remaining fixtures. It's really not pretty. Where are we?
Why do you do that, Neil?
Sorry, I've got it now.
Go on.
The 4-5 Eagles' remaining opponents have a combined record of 41-23, which is easily the highest in the league. No other team's remaining opponents have a combined winning percentage above 600.
Chris is absolutely correct there. However, one of those opponents is if you combine their record together twice, which because you have to play them twice, will be 12-6. That'd be Washington, not really the juggernaut. But anyway, no. on the Philadelphia thing, a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing is playing the NFC East. No one's running away and hiding. So a major rebuild doesn't mean that you're going to lose a year because all these teams are bang average. A bad thing is you're a year closer to having to pay Carson Wentz $25 million a year and not having the flexibility on the roster.
Yeah. I think that, I say, you just look at some of the free agents that were brought in. Obviously, I'll try and be polite. Michael Bennett leads the Eagles in sacks. He was a free agent, he was a trader now. He leads the Eagles in sacks with 5.5. So not terrific, but he wasn't brought in to be a 12, 15 sack guy. Most of the other free agents have not panned out at all. And so I think it was an over-reliance on veteran talent and not enough of, the players that the Eagles brought in themselves to draft and develop. I think some of them have not developed as much as the Eagles would like. But I'm fed up talking about the Eagles now. Can we please move on?
We can do. My team gave up 500 yards and a meager 3 points. Their quarterback threw for 178 yards and they are now 6-3.
If that had happened, right?
It did happen. I watched it. I watched it through my fingers. I watched it.
Your team has put up 500 yards of offense and scored 3 points. Would you then come out after the game and admit that the play calling was yours?
Oh, no way. No way. I'd be throwing someone else clearly under the bus at that point.
Yeah. I mean, granted, one of Fitzpatrick's interceptions was an absolute worldie catch from Josh Norman. I want him at cover, quite frankly. Certainly out on the boundary for the last few overs of the 2020. But the offense was not the problem for the Bucs, and it hasn't been all season. The kicker has, but the offense has not been the problem. So why little Dick Cotter decided to, take the one thing that was working and I want to do it. Congratulations.
Yeah, and the only good coach on that staff is the offensive coordinator, and you decided to make his job less. Bravo.
You decided to cut his balls off in full view of the watching world. He'll walk into another job. You shouldn't.
The only saving grace for Dirk Cotter is that do the Glazers want to pay 2 coaches off in 2 different sports this year? We will find out. Let's get on with the show, Neil, as we've spent 8 minutes talking about our teams. We'll plug into the mains. We've got two stories which we think deserve your attention. Then we're going to head fancy-wise. Neil's going to do his fancy darling and losers. And then we're going to do our DraftKings teams of the week. As I've mentioned, spoiler alert, I may pick some players from the game in Louisiana. Let's get it started, Neil. Plugged into the mains. As someone in the UK who had to listen to a load of people moan about how the horrible American football players broke a pitch that Spurs and Manchester City had to play on the next day. By the way, completely and utterly Spurs' fault, and now they have not been fined millions of pounds by the Premier League for just deciding he can't be arsed. Having a fixture list that they keep up is beyond me. But anyway,
Premier League are too busy kicking in for Scudamores' goodbye gift.
Don't get me started on the two. That's a different podcast, and that involves many swear words.
Absolute disgrace.
It's disgusting. So this time, soccer, or in Mexico, football, as it would be called, breaking an NFL game rather than the other way around is pretty special. I'm not necessarily going to go into that. However, what I will go into is Kansas City, by accident, have now gone from a neutral site game against the Rams to a road game against the Rams. Do you think it makes the Rams heavier favourites?
Nope.
Are you more concerned by the move or the fact that you found out that Patrick Mahomes puts ketchup on his steaks?
That's more of a concern for me. Unless Patrick Mahomes has already gone to Mexico and is having visa problems and can't get back, I really don't see the problem. Crowd noise. Piss off.
Crowd noise. Breaking news for those who are unaware. There'll be more Kansas City fans in the Coliseum than there will be Rams fans.
Yeah. You could play that game on the moon, and I don't care. It's going to be an absolute barn burner. I'm not concerned at all. The steak and ketchup thing, however, Patrick, we've come so far, and then you drop this bombshell on the world. How do you live with yourself?
I see. The funny thing is, I think this is a re-emerging story, because I am pretty sure I'd heard this story before when he was in college, and obviously it was a smaller sample size on my Twitter feed because I follow less college people, and I remember a similar outburst. Because when I read it, I was like, I weirdly think I already knew that. It's wrong, but I weirdly think I already knew it.
Friend of the show, Matt Money Smith, doesn't agree with putting ketchup on hot dogs. So the idea of the idea of an 8-ounce sirloin and you reaching for the Heinz, it absolutely turns my stomach.
There was well, let's hope he's going for the Heinz, otherwise this could get even worse.
What's the point? If he's not putting Heinz on, then we've got an even bigger problem.
We could have major problems on our hands.
You should not be putting ketchup on it, but if you're not putting Heinz on it, seriously, you don't deserve food, man.
This game has an over-under of 64, which is the highest in the NFL since 1986. Do you think it gets... Would you take the over?
I would, because I don't think... And while, there are some talented pieces on the defence of the two teams, I would hardly call the defence a strength for either team. Where is the statistic I have? This is the 5th game since 1970 between two teams who each had one or fewer losses in week 11 or later. And in fact, it's the last time it happened was in 2013, and one of the teams were the Kansas City Chiefs.
Chiefs, yeah. I look and think, if I'm the Rams, you're going to have to score a lot, which you've not necessarily got a problem with. Cooper Kupp now being out means one less weapon, which in the fine margins game that this possibly could be a big miss.
Especially as Cooper Kupp lines up in the slot, and the Chiefs' best cornerback is their slot corner. You may know.
I don't know who you're talking about.
He got traded to a team for a 34-year-old quarterback coming off a major outlier season.
Who's thrown 3 times for 178 yards and each time won the game.
For exactly 178 yards.
I don't even know. If I didn't know better, I'd think he was actually doing it on purpose. I don't think he is.
No, I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game, and I mean, let's be honest. Even if it hadn't been played on Buckley Hill, or the Shanks, or insert your own generic,
insert your own local crap ground where we're not trying to fix it. We're giving Richard Scudamore $250,000 for
Mather Avenue or whatever it is. The fact that it is going to be now in a game that's actually suited to host the NFL, it's probably going to be. Let's be honest. The only thing that can ruin this game is the Monday Night Football broadcast crew.
I'm going to say that I can tell you what's going to spoil this game. It's not necessarily Tess at all, but absolutely Witten and McFarlane.
Was it again Westling who said the fourth level of hell is Eli a Hall of Fame discussion between Berger and Jason Witten?
Yeah. Oh. Although as a man who could do with the Giants winning a couple of games in division, I was secretly pleased to see Eli do reasonably well this week.
Yeah, unfortunately, he was helped by his favourite weapon, pass interference.
The Joe Flacco additional yards. Another man who we may not see for very long. Final plugged into the Mainz, Dutton. Playoff picture. It's week 11. We need to start thinking about these things. Top
you do.
seeds
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, well, yeah. This calls into my question, right? Top seeds at the moment are Chiefs, Steelers, who I think in week 2 we set on fire.
Yeah.
The Rams and the Saints, who I think we set on fire in week 2 after they got beat by the Bucks. At the moment, this is the wild card round, okay? So Pats at home against the Bengals. So West of us alive and well. A team, the Cincinnati Bengals, who at home got laid a 50 burger on by the Saints. That's right. Just in case anybody's unsure, the Cincinnati Bengals, who play outdoors in the north of the United States of America, got beat by the Saints, who scored 50 points.
It was a full-on de-pantsing.
And you know what the Bengals have decided to do? They've decided to hire a guy who in the last few years has gone like 3-34 to help with the offense. Do
you know the best quote was, and literally I was sobbing into my sleeve. Marvin Lewis said, "I really think, given his experience in Cleveland, Hugh can help us take a more analytical approach." Are you shitting me? So he wanted to trade a second and a third for AJ McCarron, and Sashi Brown said, "No, you're not wasting my draft picks on that. I can't work with him." But you want him to... Put it this way, Marv, if you don't know anything about analytics, then Hugh Jackson's an upgrade. However, if you're expecting him to improve the analytics department, don't even let him in it.
Exactly. The other game on the AFC is at the moment is Texans at Chargers at Texans. You know, Chargers are 7-2 and have a chance to go something outrageous like 11-4 and be a wild card team on the road. Texans, obviously the 4th seed in the hunt. These are the next 5 teams in the hunt in the AFC.
Are Miami in the hunt?
Oh, you better believe they are. Titans 5-4, projected 7 seed. Thank you. I get that. They obviously level with the Bengals and 1 game behind the Texans in the division. Titans, a truly bizarre team who've been beaten by the Eagles, but somehow destroyed the Patriots and the Cowboys on back-to-back weeks.
We didn't beat the Titans.
Oh, no, you didn't beat the Titans. Sorry, they just got beat by the Chargers. And if they would have kicked a field goal, they would have gone to overtime. Bizarre team. Also in the hunt, the Dolphins, who absolutely have quit on their coach, but are somehow 5-5. In the hunt, the 4-5 Baltimore Ravens, who went from, these look interesting, to, oh, look, our quarterback's injured. Honest, he really is. No, I didn't hit him with a baseball bat, but we're going to play Lamar Jackson this week.
Do you know, just a quick one on Baltimore. Joe Flacco leads the league in passes more than 15 yards downfield. His passer rating would have been better if every single one of them would have gone straight out of bounds.
Sweet.
To what it actually is.
Sweet. Also in the hunt, the Colts are 4-5. They play the Titans this week. Could both be 5-5 at that point, and then they're hoping that Washington do them a favour against the Texans, and the 3-6-1 Browns.
Get out.
No, but what we need to clear is that means there's a load of teams worse than the Browns. So bravo to the Browns.
Yeah, at the middle of November, you are still in the hunt.
In the hunt. Wildcard games in the NFC. Much more appeasable in terms of the teams, I think. That is the Bears playing the Vikings in Soldier Field. and then your Washington semi-professional football outfit playing a team they've already beaten, a team who Cincinnati said hold my beer on, as they also gave up 50 points this time to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the Carolina Panthers. In the hunt still, Packers beaten by Washington, Falcons destroyed Washington, Seahawks, Cowboys and Eagles. Oh, for God's sake! Are they in the hunt for the wild card? I doubt it. 5-3-1 and 6-3, or are they technically in the hunt because Washington's the number 1 seed in the NFC East?
I think that's it. Technically, put it this way: there's not 2 teams all coming out of the East.
Do you think?
If some would argue that 1 team shouldn't be allowed out of the East. Is that well done? You can lift that banner, but can't we play another game? No.
I'm gonna stop you there, right? Like, Washington don't have a banner for winning the NFC East. Do you know why? Because many years ago, when TVs were big and square and possibly black and white, we won 3 Super Bowls.
Must be nice. Give you a warm, fuzzy feeling that all this happened before Sky invented English football.
Exactly, yeah. Pre-Sky invented English football. So, yeah. So, if your team's in the mix, enjoy. If your team
isn't in the mix, seriously,
what have you
after
done?
listening to all that crap, what a waste of 10 weeks you've had.
Like, as I said, if the 4-5 Eagles and Cowboys and the 3-6-1 Browns are still in the hunt, this NFL season is not great.
No, makes me puke.
Let's move on to Fancy Dutton. We always have yin and yang, good and bad. Mostly bad is mine and Neil's fancy teams this season, but Neil can still assist you and finding some diamonds in the rough and telling you who the fancy darling is this week.
Hello, darling.
This week's fancy darling is someone who, if you kept faith and held on to him, kudos. If you bought low on him, congratulations. And but if you bought high on him, or doesn't matter, you're still getting the rewards. It's David Johnson. Now he and his owners should all club together and send Byron Leftwich something nice in the mail. They've decided to feature him and use him in ways to get the ball in his hand in space. At one point last week, they threw to him on a wheel route. And I can just imagine somewhere Mike McCoy going, "Oh, no one told me he could do that." So, I'd say he's had 48 total touches in the last 2 games, including 28 last week. They're playing. We talked about teams who aren't in the hunt. Well, teams in the hunt for the first overall pick, I give you the Oakland Raiders, who welcome the Cardinals this week. The Raiders have allowed 24.7 fantasy points to running backs in 7 of 9 games this season and got absolutely destroyed by Melvin Gordon last week. They are ripe for a picking. That's why David Johnson is going to be a superstar this week like he was last week.
It's good that someone, as you said, brought us back to the world of David Johnson. As you said, it's almost like someone watched Bruce Arians' playbooks from the past few years, maybe watch the video, even a highlight package. Don't have to even watch the all 22. Just kind of get a view on what he did and go, oh look, that's dead exciting. Look at him. Look at that lad there. Oh my God, look, he beats. If he's in space, he's really good. Maybe we should do that more.
Did you hear any of the highlights of the Chiefs-Cardinals game last week? Did you hear who was in the booth?
Yeah, it was Bruce. Yeah, it was Arians. Yeah, no, I watched Red Zone. Yeah, I have Red Zone.
Every time they did something, you just tell he was sitting like whatever he was. You imagine him just turning to look down, find Byron Leftwich, and just give him the nod. Yes.
So this week we've got Raiders versus Cardinals. Like we got bye weeks. So on the bye are Bills, Browns, Dolphins, Jets, and 49ers. Also the Patriots, kind of an outlier in this situation. So we've got 5 of the worst teams in the league, and somehow we still have a game that is Arizona against Oakland. That's
sadly
that's some scheduling quirk. Those teams are losers. The Cardinals and the Raiders are also losers. So let's find out who Neil thinks his fancy loser is this week.
Loser this week, to be fair, it's been pretty much a loser for most weeks this season. It's Jordan Howard. I suggested last week that it would be more of a Tariq Cohen game. It wasn't so much that, it was just the fact that they just, the Lions just kept putting the ball where the Bears could do something with it, so it wasn't either of them. But Jordan Howard had 11 rushes for 21 yards last week, which is not great, Bob. He's actually
not good.
He's actually pretty terrible at home as well. He's got 40.2 yards per game at 2.9 yards per carry in home matches. The Bears this week are playing the Vikings, and the Vikings are only allowing 88.9 rushing yards per game. And I obviously stress the rushing yards per game because, as we know, Jordan Howard can't catch shit.
Yeah, and also he doesn't need to catch because they've got Tariq Cohen who does all that for them.
Yeah.
Bravo to the schedule makers in America, because you've given us, Thursday night, Packers Seahawks, interesting game. Sunday night, Bears Vikings, or is it Vikings Bears? Vikings Bears, and then obviously Monday night, Chiefs Rams. Bravo. Thanks for not allowing any of us to sleep in the UK.
Very kind of you.
Nice. Dutton, let's drift away from standard and let's go to daily fantasy and give everyone our daily fantasy teams of the week.
Mainz and Dutts, daily fantasy team of the week.
Show me the money.
Dutton, usual fare. DraftKings is our mode of choice. 50k, quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and a defense and special teams. I'll let you start it off. Who's your quarterback?
My quarterback is my quarterback, Carson Wentz, 6,300. He's averaging 306.9 passing yards per game and 23 fantasy points per game this season. He has multiple touchdowns in his last 6 games. The Saints have allowed at least 20 fantasy points to quarterbacks in 3 straight games prior to last week's shellacking of the Bengals. As you say, it's going to be a high-scoring game, I would imagine, and I would hope that both teams participate in it. And with that regard, I thought Carson Wentz was the arbitrage play over Drew Brees.
Okay, thanks, Neil. My quarterback, can you answer me a question, please? Who are the starting cornerbacks for the Philadelphia Eagles this week?
I think it's Rasul Douglas and Trey Sullivan.
6,500. My quarterback is this year's MVP, Mr. Drew Brees. I'm playing a narrative card of he's old, and people are starting, why hasn't this guy won loads? 6,500, Drew Brees. He's awesome. His team is on fire at the moment. And you don't know who the starting quarterbacks are on your team, and you know a lot.
And the thing as well about Brees, he's on pace to break his own single-season completion percentage record by 5%. So he's completing, at the moment, 75% of his passes. In 1999, Kurt Warner led the NFL in completion percentage with 65. He'd be 20th this season.
Neil, who's your running back one?
David Johnson, 7,500.
I also have David Johnson, 7,500, mainly for the same stats that Neil said, and they're playing the Oakland Raiders, who I think are deliberately trying to lose now.
Well, it's one of those where they say, Amari Cooper, he's retired, so Martavis Bryant is injured. Once you come back to full fitness, Geordie, you're our target. Yeah, I'm retiring.
Oh. Who's your running back 2, Neil?
Running back 2 is Dion Lewis. 4,800, Tennessee Titans at the Indianapolis Colts, as you say. Lewis is the workhorse back. It's not Derrick Henry. The fight's over. Call it. Derrick Lewis has had 45 touches in the last 2 games. Does only have 1 rushing touchdown all season, but the Colts have allowed 25.5 fantasy points to running backs in 7 of their 9 games this season, as well as, and this is important for Dion Lewis, they've allowed 71 receptions, which is the 3rd most.
My running back 2 is also Dion Lewis.
This could get boring.
I think it could, because if your wide receiver 1 isn't Michael Thomas in the next pick, I want questions answered.
Right, you can ask him, we'll answer him.
My running back 2 is Dion Lewis. He's on fine form at the moment, and I love it. I love it when players get chesty, when they beat a former team. Being confused about the Patriots being cheap. They pay like Tom Brady 30% less than market value. So no offense to you, Dion, they ain't going to pay you a load of wedge.
They pay him 30% loan to market value unofficially.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Wide receiver 1, Neil.
Alshon Jeffrey.
Oh my God, he's done. Neil sees shootout in his future.
Well, it's one of these. If I can get off the Eagles bandwagon, it means I can start using them a bit more liberally.
Yeah, true.
As opposed to just hoping Zach Ertz will come in. Alshon is 6,300. He's only seen 12 targets in the last 2 games after 22 in the previous 2. He does average 71.3 yards per game on the road this season, however. The Saints have allowed 200 plus receiving yards to wide receivers in 5 games and at least 39.4 fantasy points to wide receivers in 7 of 9 games. So again, it's going to be a shootout. Alshon Jeffrey, it depends where he lines up. They may not just put Marshawn Lattimore on him. They may, I don't know if Lattimore travels or whatnot. So I just think that they've got to start getting more people involved, and that starts with Alshon Jeffrey because, as I say, Zach Ertz is on pace to break the single-season reception record and receiving yards record for tight ends, and not even by a little bit.
My wide receiver 1. So we mentioned Drew Brees, who is going to break his own completion percentage record. At the moment, I think he's around 76.5%, Neil. My wide receiver 1 is Michael Thomas. When he throws to Michael Thomas, it's over 80%.
Why would you throw to anyone else? But are you not scared that he may lose targets to Brandon Marshall?
Nope. No. I'm not. No, but even if Brandon Marshall can, he can have a catch or 2, that's fine. But that hasn't stopped it in the past. Alvin Kamara's really good. I nearly picked Mark Ingram this week because he's ridiculously cheap. I didn't in the end. But and I could in my budget. But it's Michael Thomas. He's being thrown to by Drew Brees, and I know you were questioning whether they travel with Marcus Lattimore. Who are you traveling with? A sniper? Because that's the only way you're stopping Michael Thomas. Literally, now, I know you'll win this game. Philadelphia will win this game 28-13. And literally, I want conspiracy theorists galore to understand how Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and Mark Ingram didn't score 40 plus points against Philadelphia this week.
The only way it happens is if Taysom Hill gets injured.
Yeah, the true MVP of the New Orleans Saints.
Damn right.
Who's your wide receiver 2, Neil?
Wide receiver 2 is T.Y. Hilton. Now, he hasn't had 10 or more targets in the game since week 3, and 35 of his 77 yards last week it came on a single reception. But the way to attack the Titans is through their cornerbacks. They're pretty solid up the middle if you can try and get them on the perimeter. Titans have allowed 11 or more receptions to wide receivers in 7 of 9 games. That's the main stat this week is everyone's done something in 7 of 9 games, and also in each of the last 4. So there are no other wide receivers on the Colts because they are like the Eagles. They'll just throw to their phalanx of tight ends. It's almost as if the Colts coach used to coach with Doug Peterson.
Weird. It's almost like Frank Wright was the brains of the operation.
No.
I'm joking, obviously. I also have T.Y. Hilton. Struggled a little bit this year, as you said. Come through injuries, missed a few weeks. Played last week. That I think that gets him more in line with the offense. The concern, if I was an Indianapolis fan, is, as Neil said, Tennessee stout at the middle. Indianapolis, when they've won games, Andrew Luck has thrown less than 25 passes. I think he's going to have to throw more this week to stand any chance of beating Tennessee. So I expect T.Y. Hilton to get a lot of targets, but I probably then expect Indianapolis to lose. Who is your wide receiver 3, Neil?
Well, wide receiver 3 is one of the 3 players I suggested fancy owners should go out and pick up last week for the rest of the season. The other one of the others was Nick Chubb. You're welcome. This one's John Brown. Bengals are at the Ravens. He's 5,900. Now, I don't know who's going to play quarterback for the Ravens. It doesn't look like it's going to be Joe Flacco, but there seems to be a groundswell that it's going to be Robert Griffin.
Pardon?
So, cue Robin Williams gif. What year is this? So let's just assume that
where's
all things
that groundswell from?
I just saw it on Rotorworld and
from Robert Griffin III.
probably he'd finished. He didn't have an inspirational quote for this week, so he just decided to say, "I'm starting." The Bengals have allowed 24.6 fantasy points to wide receivers in every game this season, and only the Miami Dolphins had a game in which a wide receiver did not score a touchdown against the Bengals. They've allowed multiple wide receiver touchdowns in the last 2 games. Brown is not a target hog by any stretch of the imagination, but he does average 17.7 yards per reception. He's seen 6 or more targets in 7 games. So whoever's throwing in the ball, hopefully it's going to be downfield, and maybe, I don't know, he does something stupid like catch one and score a touchdown.
My wide receiver 3 is someone who Neil has continually slagged off, possibly for 3 years. But he's playing Washington this week, and Washington gave up 500 yards of offense. That's right, 500 yards. It's the second week with the team. He's also had a bye week to get acclimatised with the offense. Neil's pulling the face. 4,900 to Demaryius Thomas.
You can get acclimatised with the offense all you want. You can be absolutely fluent in it. You can't run the routes and you've got sloppy hands. That's fantastic. That's keep an eye on the oven. All right. Did you keep an eye on it? Yeah, I watched it burn. That's pretty much this mentality. And I know I've done this before. I've slightly off the Calvin Ridley.
No. The logic for yourself.
You ran out of money.
No, possibly.
You ran out of money.
Yeah, but if you look at 2 of my next 3 picks, you think I ran out of money on Demaryius Thomas. You ain't seen nothing yet. I think you're logical. I think it's sound. I won't throw the Calvin Ridley thing back in your face, although I will be right on that. However, he's playing Washington, and you should always have someone catching the ball against Washington. That's what I'm saying. And I couldn't.
His name is DeAndre Hopkins,
but
and he's getting all the targets.
I can't pick both. Who's your tight end, Neil?
All the targets. Another person who I've pulled a face at you for picking this season, that's Austin Hooper.
Yeah, you have done. At least I don't pick him, he's good.
He's actually been, tight ends are dumpster fire. He's been low-key okay. He's got at least 40 yards in each of his last 5 games, and he did get 11 targets last week. And I think he caught 10 of them as well, so he's not spectacular. He's a Saab. You know what you're going to get from him.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys, generally not too bad against tight ends, but they basically got ripped apart by Zach Ertz last week. So the Cowboys aren't terrible against wide receivers. Now, Julio Jones, as we know, is a centaur. So if they decide to throw to him, he's going to make catches. But I just think that maybe the attention will be more so on him, and that will help Austin Hooper. So again, as I say, tight end's that bad that Hooper only needs a couple of catches and maybe a touchdown, and straight away you got yourself a bargain.
My tight end plays the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. He plays for the New York Football Giants. His name is Evan Ingram. He's not a tight end; he's a wide receiver. And they throw a lot to OBJ. I think Evan Ingram will be open a couple of times this week. Tampa Bay are not good. Don't know if anyone knows. They're not good. And I expect Evan Ingram to get 4 or 5 receptions, 60 yards, and possibly a score.
I just worry that this is going to be the signature Saquon Barkley game.
Yeah, I know.
The 200 yard from scrimmage, 100 on the ground, 100 through the air, 3 touchdowns, that type of game.
We've been waiting for it, so we'll see what happens. Who's your flex, Neil?
Well, flex, bizarrely, someone else that I've laughed at this season, it's Amari Cooper. He's had 18 targets in his last 2 games, after only having 2 games with the Raiders this season where he had double-digit targets. The Falcons have allowed at least 122 yards to wide receivers in each of the last 8 games and allowed a wide receiver touchdown in every game. The only quarterback who has not thrown a touchdown to a wide receiver against them was Nick Foles back in week 1. And Cooper has become the alpha dog wide receiver that the Raiders tried to convince the world they didn't need, but then decided, yeah, we probably do. So they're not passing to anyone else. So I think he's going to get a heavy workload. The Falcons' defense, as we know, there are some pieces coming back. I think Deion Jones is practicing again, but it's still not a great defense. So I think as a flex option, 5,400. I don't think Cooper's terrible here.
In my flex will be not him personally in every single week, but I think you should always have a Los Angeles Chargers player in your team, Neil. That's Los Angeles Chargers player. That's Terrell Williams. He's 4,800. Let's be honest. I wish we could watch LA more. The Chargers team's really cool to watch, and this week Joey Bosa started practicing again.
It's frustrating that I think it was Graham Barfield who tweeted, if you combined the targets, the receptions, the yards, the touchdowns, the fantasy points of Tyrell and Mike Williams, you'd have the wide receiver 5.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they just keep getting in each other's way.
Yeah,
I mean, I personally, Tyrell Williams, I think, is a much better player. As Mike Williams, his shtick coming out of college was, I can win the contested catches, so you can't get open. That's what you're saying. Whereas Tyrell Williams is actually very good.
Yeah, agreed.
And he loves scoring long touchdowns on very few receptions. So no, I love Tyrell, I always have. Loved him back in the San Diego days.
Yeah, see what you did there. Neil, the Bills are not playing this week. So who is your defense or special teams?
As a tribute to the Bills, I thought about leaving the spot open, but then it wouldn't let me click, so I had to pick one. I've got the Arizona Cardinals. They're playing Oakland. Derek Carr just looks frazzled. I mean, that 4th down brain fart last week, did you see it?
Yeah,
He'd forgot the down.
No, but I also think, I think we need to understand that, like, John Gruden breaks quarterbacks. Look at his record, it breaks quarterbacks. Now, he hasn't had loads of good ones, but I would hate to be a quarterback for him. And if he gets the number 1 pick this year and picks one, he will kill him.
Yeah. Whoever he picks will be a backup that a coach like John Gruden will trade for 4 years down the line and never get on. And it doesn't help. I mean, it goes back to, I don't know, a Hard Knocks or something, and they ran a play call from a Gruden playbook. It's absolute gobbledygook. It was 19 words.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not very funny. That's an awful lot. I know these people have got to learn the playbooks, but if they're that complicated, this is the problem Mike McCoy had every damn year. Oh, I've made we've scaled the playbook back in week 6. Should have been done before week 1. And Gruden, I say, he's the only man with job security in Oakland because, I say, they can't afford to pay anyone else.
Well, none of them have got job security in Oakland because they're all going to be in Las Vegas.
Well, yeah.
Mine is, you look for the worst team or the team that gives the ball away the most. Well, the team that gives the ball away the most is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I believe have turned it over 28 times this year. So my pick, 2,400, is the New York Football Giants.
It's another movable force, resistible object, isn't
absolutely. I mean,
you're just hoping on turnovers, aren't you?
Yeah, it's pure turnovers. You look at the games and you're like, let's pick one of the good teams. You could have gone, at the time, I usually pick defense early when I do this, so I then work around it. Did think about getting the Bears, because, I love Kirk Coupons, he's cool and that, but, issues that he will have, holds onto the ball, possibly gets sacked, throws an alley up. Throws an alley. You're like, that could work, but I decided that, don't move away from a tried and trusted Tampa Bay Buccaneer Ryan Fitzpatrick 3-interception game.
It could happen.
Let's recap, Neil. Who's your quarterback?
Carson Wentz.
I've got Drew Brees. Running back 1.
David Johnson.
I also have David Johnson. Running back 2.
Dion Lewis.
Also have Dion Lewis. Wide receiver 1.
Alshon Jeffrey.
I have Michael Thomas. Wide receiver 2.
T.Y. Hilton.
I have also T.Y. Hilton. Wide receiver 3.
John Brown.
I have Demaryius Thomas. Tight end.
Austin Hooper.
I have Evan Ingram. Flex.
Amari Cooper.
I have Terrell Williams. Can't believe you got Cooper and Hooper. I usually defense and special teams.
The Arizona Cardinals.
I have the New York Football Giants. Neil, where can people catch you for the rest of this week?
This week, Twitter at N13. I have my usual plethora of articles out, my NFL stats from Numberfire, game level similarity projections for quarterbacks and tight ends at Rotoviz, my wide receiver usage report also at Rotoviz, and also this week from Numberfire I wrote about why Josh Adams of the Eagles is worth a pickup, especially after Doug Peterson said he's going to get more opportunities. And I will be on with Nat and Mike Carson on Sunday from 5:30 on TalkSport 2.
I'll believe a Philadelphia Eagles head coach saying he's going to use a running back more when I see it. I'm at Mainz7 combined. We are at waxing_lyrical. That's a week 11 show in the books. Enjoy Sunday. Enjoy Monday. It's going to be a classic game. Let's hope we get as many points as Vegas are predicting. And these top guys are out.